All right, guys, welcome to the video. John Bodine here with Redemptive Psych. Today I'm joined with Murcer from Mongolian Mindset. Murcer, thanks so much for doing this. You had me on your show a little while ago, and I'm glad to collaborate again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This is interesting. I've been wanting to do a tier list for a long time, so it's great to be able to collab with another typology expert on this. I think what we're doing here is going to be changing a lot for people that's in this sphere. I think between me and you and put our heads together, I think it's just premium information that's coming out. Like it's just you cannot
For
miss
sure.
this.
Yeah. So this is like the next layer and talking about the typology vectors. Like both of us have done some videos talking about, the abstract and the concrete vector. There's the different vectors from Linda Behrens and Kiersey and some others that we use to type others. But there's another conversation here that's a little more evaluative based on, like, if you have to choose 2 or 3 vectors to try and really invest in and get good at, they're not all created equal. Some are worse than others. All of them are true, I think, in a sense, but they're not all discernible, and some of them kind of blend together. So we're going to go through one by one each of the vectors, talk about its use, kind of what's needed to get good at it, and mostly just rank them of, like, these are the most powerful vectors, the most reliable vectors, versus the lower ones will be less reliable, are easier to confuse with other traits. So we want to give you guys the best feel for just which vectors are the most powerful, because you can look at someone and say, well, that person initiates more, therefore they're this or that type, and some of these traits are just not as discernible as others. So that's part of our conversation here. We're going to kind of filter out this. I don't know exactly where this is going to go. I think we'll agree on some of it, and some of it we have different experiences with. So let's start with abstract and concrete. Give me your Mercer, give me your opinion. How valuable do you think this vector is? How powerful? How much do you use it? And how much value you got out of it?
I think when it comes to typing for me, I've got to the point to where I don't really stress one over another. I just let it come to me, whichever comes out in abundance, it will come. But if I had to rank them, abstract versus concrete, I would say that abstract, when I'm looking at this metric, I'm just looking, is this person abstract or not? I'm not looking, is he talking about concrete stuff? I'm looking pinpoint, is this guy abstract? Okay. I think this one is a pretty good metric if you notice that majority of what they're saying is abstract. I do think you can make a mistake when you are looking at abstractions from NI versus abstractions versus NE. The NE people will have more abstractions into their language, so it can slip you up quite a bit sometimes. But overall, you should get this manifestation that this person thinks, extreme things are possible.
Right. Okay.
It's
So
what I would say.
this is another layer here with any heroes, particularly. I've noticed this. So yes, any is like hyper abstract and symbolic, but I've also seen like ENPs who are in an entertaining role. Like if you watch streamers that are an ENTP, they'll talk a lot in a way that feels like SE, and it can be hard to decipher: are they discussing their experience versus are they talking about an abstraction above the surface? So I think like the high NI users can be actually easier to use this vector on at times. Though I do agree, NE in of itself is a little more abstract. I think it's pretty powerful. It sounds like what I'm hearing is you're saying if you ask the questions more specifically, not which one is this person, but asking, are they concrete or are they abstract, is a better way to use it. Is that what you're saying?
Like when I'm looking at it, I'm just looking, is this person abstract? I'm not looking for concrete. I'm like, okay, does this guy play with ideas? Is he looking for the abstract realm? I'm not more say like, okay, well, he said 5 concrete things and 2 abstract, I'm looking like, does this guy entertain possibilities overall, right?
So do you type concrete on like the absence of abstract? Not.
Yes.
I
Yes.
see. This is
Yes.
very interesting. So this is a good pitfall to avoid, because everyone, when they get in the conversation, will talk about concrete things. This happened. I saw this the other day. It's kind of inevitable. Some types, though, almost never talk about abstractions. So you, in your experience, you kind of, I don't want to say load the deck, but you view it from one side.
Yeah.
Are they abstract? And if they're not, then
Then they
they're
have to be concrete. Yeah.
You don't try and justify concrete.
Mhm.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, this vector belongs. I don't think it's the best of the best. I think it's pretty good. I think it's either an A or a B level vector. I kind of want to go A, but
I think A is
what do you
pretty.
think?
Yeah, I think A is pretty good. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, certainly on top half of the vectors. I think one of the things that limits it, as you're discussing, is that it is harder to talk to directly measure a concrete trait, except with some exceptions. It's better on the one half of the abstraction, I think.
Yeah, like if you're really trying to get good at understanding abstract versus concrete, just look for abstract, right? If there's no abstractions, by definition, it had to be concrete. Make the stuff easy for you.
Concrete, that's right. Do you do that with other vectors too? I'm just kind of curious because I haven't heard that as much. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to get into that more as we go further. So yeah, I think this is a powerful vector. It's what I talk about in the videos I do is go with the extremes first. Like if you hear some like Indian guru talking about the metaphysical movements of thought and feeling, that's probably abstraction. It's easier to identify. I always feel like the judgment heroes are harder to type with this vector, like ENTJs or ENFJs, because there's a leading with the decision function. It can actually look more concrete at times, in my opinion.
Well, I think the concreteness comes from the child function, because a lot of people will just loop between those two, especially when they're moving fast or quick and fast. A great example would be Donald Trump. Like if you're watching him, most of his speech is T-E-S-E, 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 T-E-S-E.
That's right. That's right.
So if you're typing him, you might not see the abstractions as much, but you'll see some goofy things,
right?
Like where he's like trying to create a space force, or like you'll see him pushing Bitcoin for the future, right? Bitcoin's the future, regardless if people want to or not to address it, but it is. And for your president to be getting online with that says a lot about him. So,
right, and this is why a lot of people think he's an ESP, because the SE is evident. It's just it can be hard to spot in I because it's an internal process, and it's easier to spot with the INJs because they're kind of detached and they're not as present as other types. So, okay, so abstract, concrete, very solid vector. Let's go to outcome and progression next.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, please. This one's a little.
All right. So outcome versus progression. If you watch my channel over at Mongolian Mindset, this is the gold standard for me. This is the gold standard. This is the one that I'm hunting probably more than any other metric, because this one is going to lead me to getting it right. Right? Because sometimes you can't really tell if somebody's initiating versus responding, but outcome versus progression, I think it's deep in someone's core. Right? It's just the way like their core manifests. Right? They may say, a progression thing here and there, but generally speaking, if they're an outcome type, they're hunting outcomes. If they're a progression type, they're talking about steps to achieve set goal, or they're giving you the actual journey to get to the end goal. So for me personally, I think this is the one that you got to make sure you get right. You got to make sure you get this one right. If you get this one right, I feel pretty confident with finding someone's type.
So it is very powerful. I also think it's one of the harder ones. Probably,
yeah.
I think it's the top 2 hardest one. I'm not sure what the other one is, but it might be the single hardest one. Can you describe a little bit, because I still go back and forth in my understanding of this. A progression type cares about an outcome, cares about getting somewhere.
Yes.
But their focus is not about getting there as fast as possible. Their focus is somewhere else.
So, all right, let me explain it. I'm going to explain it from a basketball thing, right? A simple basketball knowledge. So an outcome type and progression type, right? If you were to say, okay, I need you to make 10 baskets back to back, 100%, right? Let's take an INTJ, right? They would believe in, okay, I gotta find the best shooting form. I gotta do all of this. Like I gotta do that. Like, so they're gonna be like more technical with it. Like, okay, maybe it's the shooting, maybe it's the pull-up release, and they're gonna get lost in all of this, but through all of it, they will get to their end goal. But they're gonna get lost in the process, like bringing up maybe they got the elbow, maybe they need to pull up the shooting arm, maybe this, right? While the outcome type is looking purely for the outcome, and they don't care how they get to the outcome, right? Just make the 10 baskets. They're never losing sight of the 10 baskets. The process type may forget exactly about making the 10 baskets.
Okay.
But they're getting lost into it.
They're obsessed with the process. They're obsessed with whatever they think is going to get them there. That practice is what they're obsessed with.
They're going to be more into the best process gets me this result. So let me go for the process. That means shooting form. That means jumping. Like they're going to be strictlers for that type of thing to get to the outcome. And they'll just get lost into it, They'll just get lost into it. Sometimes they'll just wake up and be like, yeah, I got the outcome, because they just get lost in doing it.
With that, how does let me ask this in a specific way. How does an outcome type deal with like failure in that way? Like they need 10 baskets and then they're like missing a bunch. What do you think like an outcomes type's reaction to that feedback is?
Well, they're just going to be hunkering on, okay, well, I just need to get this outcome. So they're going to just figure out whatever they got to do to get the outcome. They're not looking in the shooting form. They're not looking at all that. They're just running to get the outcome. Once they get the 10 baskets, they're done.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
It might be worth mentioning too that this vector has also been called control. Outcome has been called control, which is, I don't know how you feel about it. I think it gives a nice behavioral shade to it. That outcome types are more, they exert more control, I think, over we're getting to this point no matter what. Something like that. So
I think it's the behavior between them with the outcome types is that they will try to control something to get results. Like you'll see a control type, they may try to control their diet or something, right? While the progression type may do even more work. Like they may, do more workout. They may do, more workout instead of like being as screenient on like trying to control the diet as much.
That's interesting. So is it like a restriction and expansion thing being loosely associated with this vector? You think
to some degree?
Yeah, I think that's true overall, with some exceptions. So it sounds like you feel this is like one of the apex vectors.
Well, but like you said, that this one did trip me up quite a bit when it came to typing, and it took me quite a long time to learn it. So I do agree with you when it comes to that. But I think if you want to be proficient at being able to type, you got to get good with this. But I do think it's got a high difficulty.
Yeah, it has to be S tier then if it's as powerful as that, even if it's a harder vector. I think it's very hard compared to the other ones.
I think it's not noob friendly. That's what I would say. It's not noob friendly.
Right.
Like some of these are noob friendly, like direct versus informative is a little bit more.
You can't be a casual and be expert at this. Okay, so I'm comfortable putting it S tier somewhere. I think that's where you want it to. So, okay, affiliative and pragmatic. The word that comes to mind isn't hard exactly for this. It's more confusing, which might be the same thing, but it's a different type of hard, I think. I have but by the time this video comes out, I'll have my video on this vector released. Take us down a little bit of the train here of affiliative pragmatic. What's your perspective on this vector?
Okay, so I actually like David Kersey's definition of these a little bit better. I know Linda Barron's kind of rebranded them, but his original terms is for affiliative is cooperation.
That's right.
And for pragmatic is utilitarian. So when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at, okay, does this person kind of see things as the ends justify the means
Hmm.
when they're going to get something, or are they more about cooperation when they're doing something,
Hmm.
right? Trying to get people to move together as a unit and do what's
Right.
good for every, that type of thing, the cooperation, the buy-in. Um, when I'm typing though, this is, I think this one's a little bit more noob friendly. I would say it's a lot more noob
Yeah.
friendly.
Yes.
What's your thoughts?
At least at the extremes, it is noob friendly. I think the nuances of it are tricky because, for example, like INTJs can be quite idealistic, and that idealism can look like, you know, we're all going to sing kumbaya and save
Mhm,
the world. It can look like what people think an NFJ is, but it's not. So man, I feel like this one is okay.
mhm,
Um, it's difficult though because when you get like an SFP with that high FI, it's easy to confuse someone's values and them leading with their values
mhm,
with being affiliative or pragmatic. So I think there's a lot of trip ups in this vector, especially
mhm,
just because of that, because of you have the TI user affiliative types like the all the FJs who can look pragmatic with their solutions, and sometimes they're willing to stand alone, right?
mhm.
Even though that's not their preference. So do you have a spot on this list that you feel?
Well, I'm gonna just explain something real quick.
Sure.
When it comes to the pragmatic people and the affiliative, I think people get lost in like things sometimes when it comes to that. It's affiliative and pragmatic is more about like what you do, right? It's
That's
about
right.
what you do.
Right.
But people can give you insights to what they do through their language. But ultimately, it's about, do you have a pragmatic use of tools? If you read the David Kersey, he talks about it. The pragmatic sense of use of tool, right? Whatever tool works, they're going to use. While the affiliative, a little bit different. Um, I think this
Absolutely.
one,
Yeah.
I,
This is an action heavy vector compared to
mhm,
the other ones. It's actually I say that in the video actually. It's you have to use this one more from the perspective of action because language will trip you up so much with this vector because
mhm,
of the idealism of the INTJ, because of the TI of the FJs, things like that.
mhm. Yeah,
Um,
I think
good
you
point.
just, I think it's B tier. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I was thinking B or C. I'm kind of leaning towards high C, low B.
Let's see.
Let's put it B for now, and then we can come back to it later. It's definitely not A. It's definitely not above that. It's not F though. Like
Mhm,
it's decent. It's just not amazing. Um, real quick on Kiersey's language with it. So utilitarian is interesting. My understanding of utilitarianism is it's like what is the greatest good for the most amount of people and the least
mhm,
suffering for the most amount of people. So
mhm,
that motivation is a humanistic motivation, and people think that pragmatic types are like inhumane, which is not the
mhm.
case.
It's not the case.
You being a pragmatic type, can you share like why that label resonates with you? Because some people would think utilitarian is an affiliative trait.
Well, see, the thing is if you came up to me, hypothetical situation, and you're like, Mercer, we got to kill one person for 99 people to survive. I'm saying, okay, good, right?
Good.
Okay, good, let's do it. If you were to do that to an INFJ, they're gonna say no.
Right. That's right.
We got to figure out a way to save that one person. But in my mind, it's like automatic. Like one life is
All
not
right.
worth 99.
That's
So the
easy.
math is gone. Like move.
Simple math.
Is simple math. Like, but the like even my friend, I asked my ENFJ friend that he's like, no, like I'm not doing. And I asked my coworker's INFJ. He's like, yo, I'm just not gonna entertain that answer. Like he
Yeah.
just got
Wow.
upset about it,
Yeah.
and he was like,
I relate
I
to that.
said, well, what are you gonna do if they need you to do it? And then he said, I'm just not gonna do it, and whatever happens, happens. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, hold on.
Um,
So the trolley problem is not a problem for you. Like you're saving the 5 lives and letting the 2 pass
yeah,
on so you can save
yeah,
the 5. Okay. Fair enough.
yeah.
That's a great example of the pragmatic here because it is still they care about things. It's just they approach it in terms of math, in terms of what makes sense, right? Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's very illustrative. So yeah, so we'll stay with B for that for now. Okay, let's go. I want to go to interest and systematic next.
Interest and systematic. Okay.
So to me, this one blurs the lines a little bit. It has some similar with affiliative and pragmatic, some similar with outcome and progress. Because systematic movement types, in my opinion, are hard to type sometimes. This is like the ESFJ, because movement seems, this might just be me, movement seems to have more interests visual to it. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but before we get into a little bit, can you kind of capture this trait for us of what is this trait about? What does it measure?
Okay, so Linda Behrens has changed it recently, and I do like that a little bit better. When it comes to interest, she likes motive, right? These people are hyper aware of motives, right? So like, and a lot of times, interest people like to know things up front. Like they like to know what they stand to gain from something up front, and they feel comfortable once they know what you get out of a situation and what I get out of a situation, right? Systematic people don't look at that, right? When somebody Christian, my you guys have seen him on my channel, ISTP. We used to get on him when we were younger because we used to call him an opportunist.
That's right.
Because all of a sudden he would tell people what they get out of situations, and we're not even thinking about that. So now you got me paranoid, right?
That's right.
Being a systematic person, it makes me paranoid. Like, damn, I'm not thinking about that. Like, and these metrics, when you think about these metrics, you want to think about the first thing that comes to mind. Which one are you doing first, right? So, and I try to distinguish the motive or interest between the SPs and the NFs, right? Because what I've noticed from the NFs is they like to play with like psychologically analyzing people all the time. Well, Murcer's acting like that because he never had a father type thing. You know, like that type of, they like to play that game.
Daddy
you know?
issues.
No, I'm just saying, like in general, like they like to play like the psychological motive.
Right.
They like to look into people like that. You'll say like that, or like, but for the SPs, they're looking like, what do I get right now or very soon interest. We call it on my channel disgusting interest because it's in your face
with the SP, especially the SFPs. I think so. I would say that this might not be right, but I would say that behaviorally, the SPs seem more suspicious of your motive, and the NF seem more curious. At least the NFJs seem more curious. Here's another aspect.
Yeah.
You have the FI and FE version. Like FI interest is much more
disgusting.
They measure it first to themselves, and the FE interest types a little less so, I would say. So
no. So we actually break that down on our channel, on my channel. We call FI interest disgusting interest. Like it is disgusting. It's in your face. It's I got this, you got nothing. Right.
What do I get out of that? That's right.
But FE interest is more like we stand to gain from this. Let's make it fair. Like, you know, they're more cool about like splitting it up. FI interest, like like if you want to look at Cardi B, she displays interest in your face all the time, like I got this, or like they still making my sales go up, you know.
That's right. As long as I benefit, then we're good. We're Gucci, as the ESFP say. So I said this in the needs of the ESFP video that they are kind of more selfish in their behavior often and more upfront about it, but it's actually I depending on the person, I find it admirable at times because you know where they stand and they're not like necessarily trying to hide their motive most of the time. So I can appreciate that, but they are definitely more like willing to just look selfish and not even try to hide it really, which is, you know, there's a positive and negative to that. So okay, talk to us about the systematic side a little bit. What is systematic?
Okay, so I like Baron's word here, structure, right? these people like to use a structure or a system to get things to work, right? They will internalize looking at systems like, okay, what's the methodologies here? What's the procedure here? What's the protocol here? They will try to create a system. Like if they're trying to play basketball or something, they're creating systems like, okay, I know that if I get to this spot, I got this move, that move, and this move. Very systematic approach to it. I know that from here I can get this shot, right? So you will see that play out with everything they do. Like they're always like hyper focused on the system. They know if they can find the system, they can get the goal. That's how I think about things. Like I'm not even interested in the interest because like I know if I find that system, I got the heart of everything I've got, everything I want, right? So I can say a person does have like a little interest in the system, right?
Right.
They believe the system is going to give them and provide them everything that they need.
That's right. That's right. And then vice versa too, of the interest types sort of develop a bit of a system around their interest of like, as long as I know what I'm getting, then we're good. That's sort of a system. So I think your camera's off. I don't know if you mean to do that or not. So let me run an example by you, and I don't know if this is related or not. I've always thought it's related, but when I was learning these vectors, I was playing a lot of PUBG. PUBG had just come out. I was like playing way too much. But in PUBG or in COD or whatever, like once I start getting good at a game, there's a couple of things that happen. One of the things that happen is like when I'm in a situation, I will not necessarily take a fight until I feel like I have the advantage. Until like I know that the situation benefits me from my positioning, or they don't know where I am, something like that. And like I'll develop the discipline to only engage once I feel like I have an advantage.
That's SE inferior.
Do you think that is interest, or is that because I don't know inferior. If INTJs do it differently?
Yeah, I think that's SE inferior. You want to make sure that you got to win with NI. You're searching for
the guarantee.
You're looking for all certainty with yours, and then unless you got guaranteed certainty, you're not engaging, and then that's because you're SE inferior.
Absolutely. So, do you think an INTJ?
They'll do the same thing.
Have similar behavior, but do they approach it differently with a systematic view?
They're just gonna engage you through a systematic point of view. So they'll have some systems, some traps, some whatever, but they're most likely not going. Because the SC inferior is weak, they're going to engage you with some type of trap or something. They're not going to engage you one-on-one where you have any type of chance of winning. I joke around a lot of times. I joke around in general. Like if I move against you, it's an automatic 100% chance you're going to lose because I know that I'm going to get the certainty. But that's due to like weaker SC. Like the people with stronger SC, they can just improvise and overcome and adapt to the situation. While those with lower SC, they got to plan a little bit more. Like they know, they may get overwhelmed, and if they get overwhelmed in a moment, they know they're dud.
Right. They need to have anticipated and built. So this is interesting because all of the SPs, all of the high SE users are all interest based. They're not systematic at all. So they have the ability to really react effectively in any situation potentially. So. For me, I don't know if it's a trickster or just these things moving together. Like some of these traits feel a little outcomey to me. Some of them feel a little affiliative to me, or pragmatic. Do you feel like they're perfectly distinct, or that to me they bleed together a bit here?
I think for me, I think you have to iron them out. I think there is a bit of overlap. But if you put in the time, you'll see the distinctions. And for this metric, this is one of the ones that I look to see is this person systematic or not? If they're not systematic, then by default, then they are interest. So that's the way I approach this metric in my typings. If I see systematicness, then I'll take it. But again, like for me, I think I'm more advanced to this. So I can spot interest, I can spot systematic, but when I first started, it was like, okay, just look for systematic. This person's either systematic or they're not, right?
Right.
But I think this is a slippery one here.
So would you say that systematic types are more what's the word? Not mundane, but
More boring.
what's the word when it's like they're methodical? Would you say that
Yes.
systematic types are more
That,
methodical?
that is a word that would you would, if you see a person saying I am methodical, that is a systematic person.
Right. Most
Right.
likely, yeah.
Or
Okay.
they'll say the same thing. They'll do the same thing. They will say the same thing. They will use the same thing. Very
Right.
systematic.
And this is why I've mixed it with outcome because they use their system to get to the same point, but you can still have that combined with process because the system becomes more about the process versus more about the outcome, and that's another layer of
So you're
distinguishing.
right here. You have to be very discerning when you're listening to a person because they may say progress, but really what they're saying is systematic.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you have to be
Exactly.
very
Right.
careful to discern what the person is actually saying there.
That's
Because when
right.
someone says progress, a lot of times progress, they're really talking about a system or creating a system.
100%. Yeah.
So you gotta be
So
careful.
on my channel up till now, I have not loved this vector, and my theory is that systematic types like this vector and interest types don't as much.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's true, but I've had a harder time. I think it's because I can't relate to systematic types as much. That's probably it.
I
Um,
think it's because you're TE trickster, man. Because the TE is the ability to create outside systems, and because you have no TE, it's kind of like, oh, might be a little harder for you to notice.
and this is kind of why it's strange to me that ISFJs are systematic because like they are so systematic and they don't have any TE at all, and I'm like, how's that even possible? I don't know,
Well, I
but
think it's the SI. It's the SI.
that's right.
The
The
SI. They like the same
memory.
experience over and over and over and over, and rarely do they ever change it.
Yeah,
Only through like
that's right.
going through their life and living life do they ever like change their views, their
That's right.
views that they got as a kid.
And they are extremely methodical if you've ever watched an ISFJ, even if it's not TE based.
Mhm.
So okay, so I'm kind of feeling this is it's
But
not
you
a
got
bad
weak
vector
SC, and I mean you got weak SI and weak TE.
and TE, yeah,
So.
which is that's the systematic kind of
Mhm.
favorite function, I think.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of feeling I think a mid tier B for this is where I'm going. What do you think?
I'm thinking C.
It's B or C. It's not A. It's not F. Let's put it C for now, and we'll review it at the end. It's no higher than like B middle, and it's no lower than C minus, I think. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, let's do the other two main vectors, and then we'll talk about those kind of other ones that are not exactly made
The
up. But
fun ways. The fun
uh,
ways.
all right, let's just jump into initiating versus responding. I don't think we have to spend too much time on this.
Yeah.
Initiating types, they initiate interactions, conversations. They might change the topic more. Responding types stay more on topic. They don't initiate as much. However, it's kind of a weak vector. Do you
Yeah.
want to share why? What your perspective is?
All right. So I'm going to give a little explanation before that. So for
Please.
initiating, I kind of like to use Dario Nardi's brain example. So people that are extroverted, their wiring of the brain is towards the frontal lobe. So the information has less room to travel. Why the introverts, the information has to go all the way to the back of the
Okay.
brain.
Oh, and then
So they are more in line with responding. This metric, I think, is by far the worst one because a person can put on a mask, but that's not who they really are. So
that's right.
you may really take time to realize that, oh God, like this guy is not initiating. This guy is fucking I mean, because
So
this, this guy is responding, like he is
that's
an
right.
introvert, but he may put on a persona for like 2 hours that he's extroverted, or maybe he's a very likable person, but a lot of times this guy spends a lot of time by himself.
That's right.
So you would jump to initiating and already messed up the typing vectors for yourself, because the thing is if you miss one vector you're gonna miss type.
That's right. So this is something that Dario Nardi talked about when he was on with you. If I remember, I'll link that. I think that's your most recent interview. He talked about people mistyping him as an extrovert because he's a teacher, professor, right? He runs these workshops and he's thinking, right. They think he's an ENP because he's talking, he's movement, sure. But then he talks about after that he's done, right? He has to go home and be an introvert for a while. The most confusing thing about this vector is context. Like, if you're a teacher or if you're in any role that requires some kind of interaction, like, you will learn to become more initiated. Like, it is the most probably malleable vector, I think, because of that. It's so your context affects you so much with this vector. So I don't think it's horrible, but it's only good under very few conditions, which means it's kind of horrible. But what I mean by that is, if you really catch someone in a natural environment where they're not having to be someone else, then I think you can see it. But it's beyond that, man. It's tough. Like, it's really tough. Now, some celebrities and people who like don't talk at all and are very soft-spoken, probably responding, but not always. I've met some ESTJ women who are like harmonizing subtype, and they look like ISFJs, and they're not. But so I agree, it's the weakest one. I think it's still salvageable if you know that you have to ignore like 80% of what you think. Like, you if you're in a workplace environment, you kind of have to be really careful with it. So I think we're both in agreement. It's the worst one. F.
Yeah, and I'll say another example would be like people like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's an INTJ. Everything he talks about comes from vision, and he's always talking about the progression of how he got there, the steps. But most people would say, no, Arnold has to be an extrovert. And it's like, he puts on that persona for you, but realistically, he probably spends a lot of time by himself. You're probably seeing him once his battery has recharged, right? And he's done what he needs to do, and then he'll go back to his thing and build up his battery again, and then he'll do it again. So you got to be very selective to the type of thing. What I have noticed is the extroverts always have to be doing something. They always got to be doing, like, they always like going to this pool party, they going to this thing, going to that thing. Like, they just keep interacting with the outside world. It's what I've noticed from extroverts.
That stimulation. And we haven't talked about the extrovert side as much. I've seen a lot of ESJs who the SI users won't necessarily engage. The extroverts won't necessarily engage until they're comfortable. So that they can look kind of backgroundy, and then once they get comfortable, then they won't stop talking. But like the ESTJ and the ESFJ, particularly the ESTJ, I think a lot of them look like introverts. Like Henry Cavill, if you watch him in an interview, he's like, I think we agree he's probably ESTJ, but he's not like the life of the party, right? So I would guess that he thinks he's an introvert. A lot of ESTJs I've met think they're introverts, but that SI, they still initiate, but SI is very more, how do you say it? That they have to, other conditions have to be met before they're really going to be comfortably initiating. So there's so many pitfalls with this vector. You have to be really careful.
It's by far the worst one. Like it's the one I'm not looking at all. Like, you will rarely see me when I'm doing a celebrity type and say somebody's initiating, responding, unless it's like so bad that I have to.
Especially if you're watching like talk shows or podcasts, don't do it there. I think it's a little better if you're typing via like a book, like reading about someone. You're talking, you learn about their habits. That's a little better. But man, I mean, so steer clear of this one unless you're just using it as a supplementary one. Then that's probably all right. But okay, so let's do direct and informative, and then we'll get into those last three. Take us down this alley a little bit. What is direct? What is informative? What are we dealing with?
The best thing that I can say for direct versus informing is direct is more about closed-ended statements, right? These people use more closed statements, while informing is about open statements, right? They're very open when they talk about things. They can give you several different types of informing, right? You'll get the shy informative. You'll get the give you too much information informative. Way too much. you'll get the Blues Clues informative. So it's like you got to decode what they're saying,
Okay.
informative. But those generally are the informatives that you're gonna get. It can be a lot harder to see sometimes if someone is responding in informative because they can be very brief with the words that they
That's
say,
right.
so that you think that is direct, but it's really, like I said, it's going a lot of times when they talk, it's like it's going out like this.
Right.
Like I don't know why when I imagine, I think I view them talking like this. Why when a direct person talking, it's like boom.
Right. It's the opposite. It's we're going to the point. I
Mhm.
love this characterization of this of close and open. I haven't heard that before, and it's like I've been thinking about it since you mentioned it to me maybe a month ago. I think it's a great way to
Yeah.
substitute these vectors because it's um, if you just use that, you're probably going to be right the majority of the time. Is the information going to a certain spot, or is it kind of floating or even
Mhm.
expanding? Um, I would say the introverted informative types, they're not necessarily pushing things forward. They just kind of let things float. Whereas
Mhm.
the starter types are kind of more just like just shooting
Yeah.
out
Like shotgun.
right, exactly. So that you have to be careful of that. That the as we've talked about, the introvert informative types can look more direct because they're still going to say less, but what they say is non-directive. So in the video I did about this vector, I said that there are two aspects of direct. One being to the point and short with their speech. The other being directive, like behaviorally,
Mhm.
they're more likely to direct others. Um,
Mhm.
Even more so for the in charge types, the extroverted directs. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect of
Yeah.
it? Of what's
Yeah.
the
I think
directive aspect?
you got. I think people have to be careful with the directive thing because what I've noticed is the responding direct types don't generally like to tell people what to do all the time, but the in
Okay,
charge direct types love telling people what to do.
that's
They
right.
love telling you what to do. They can't help but tell you what to do. Go get this, go do that, do this, do that. First thing
Right,
they do, they may be like, oh, do this, do this for me.
right.
You'll see that with the in charge types there. But with the responding types, not as much. They may say, I really don't like to tell people what to do. So if you use
Especially in
that,
the group, I've noticed they won't do it. So more in one-on-one environments, they may do it more. So it sounds like the way you recommend using this vector is the way you do abstract and concrete, and I think interest and systematic. Do you
no, no,
stack it
no,
in terms of
no, I don't stack it like that. This one is I'm very discerning. Okay, is this guy informative? Is this guy direct? Right? Is this guy like, is he saying close-ended things? Because sometimes you got to be careful with progression types that are close-ended, right? You got to make sure, and I
true?
think people mess that up. So like when Dario Nardi talks, he has to go through his progression from A to Z to
Right,
how he got to his conclusion, but everything is going to be close-ended. So you got to be
right,
careful with that. Don't try to use the volume that a person talks as a metric to discern what this is, and that's what I think a lot of people do, and they get it wrong.
right. Okay. What I meant more with the I should have specified with the subtype of typing direct in of itself. If you
Mhm.
see a direct type who is bossing people around, they're more likely to be an in charge type
In
than
charge
a
type, yeah,
than
yeah,
a. So it's only a small piece of it. Um,
yeah.
okay, so you're talking about with Nardi and other
Progression type,
progression types.
yeah.
Progression in of itself can look informative because they're
Mm.
going through the process. It can be more information, but it's still towards a certain endpoint.
Goal,
Is what you're.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So you
this is
have
a
to
good
be very
distinction here.
careful. Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to get all of these metrics down, like to like go through and be very specific about what I'm seeing. It took me quite a bit to go and attack each and every one of them. But that is one of the ones that will slip people up is they'll get somebody who's progression and they will think they're informative because they're saying a lot. But the progression type just has to go through their progression, their journey.
Sure.
But you just got to make sure that it's closed ended. Um, versus
And
other.
I talked about this in the video a little bit, but direct TE users like the especially the introverts like the INTJ and the ISTJ, you got to be careful with them, especially because TE can be all about informing, giving information, but it's again, it's to a certain point. Like, why are they giving it? And they're giving it to get to this point, not just to shoot it everywhere.
Yeah, I think the thing about the direct in charge types is they can run the risk of being too direct, and it
That's right.
can actually get people confused because it can be
That's right.
so direct.
That's
So you
right.
got to be
Yeah,
careful
like,
with.
and that's why you have to distinguish here of like, if they're bossing people around but don't talk a lot necessarily, they can still be an extrovert, because extroversion is not all about just talking. It's behavior too in the simulation. So okay, so this one, I have mixed feelings about this one. Do you have a place where it feels right
I think
to
A.
you on the
I think
A?
A. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah,
pretty
I was
good.
going, it's not C or F, it's not S, it's A or B.
I think it's one of the ones where you cut on the interview like you're hunting for kind of like almost immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go A.
Let me yeah, let's put it A for now. We'll review it at the end. I think that's probably right. I was tilting towards B, but I'm realizing the reason why is because I am only focused on the exceptions, and there's a few, but overall it is pretty good, especially if you can get the nuances of being directive and saying less but still being informative. Then yes. Okay, so these other three vectors, they're not official vectors. I added them because they're kind of emergent over time, and they kind of overlap a little bit. So we're going to go through them. I don't know if you agree with the labeling of all these, but we can discuss them. So function typing, let's start with that. That's like when you see someone and you're like, oh, that's NI, or oh, that's TI, or oh, that's FE. It's kind of a intuitive process of just kind of noticing what function might be. Now, I know CSJ talked about this a couple of years ago. He said never to do that. I don't agree. I think you can.
Are you talking
do it.
function typing based off actions?
Actions, words, whatever. Like just identifying functions. I'm like, oh, that person's about what they want, so that must be NI or something like that. It's kind of a cluster of a trait, I think, because there's other things involved with it. But
yeah, functions for me, I think is really, that is one thing. You got to know your functions, man. You got to know your functions, because the functions are going to help you double check your work.
okay.
Right, you got to know the functions. Like, you got to know what SE is, you got to know what NI is, you got to know what TE is, and you got to know what FI is, because these are going to help you check your work. I would say if you're good at hunting these, they can be very useful. But
do you want to talk about your hero typing method?
So I'm working on a method. I'm kind of working on a method to pretty much make the type grid obsolete. But I just have to go through it and lay out all of the hero functions and how they manifest. If you see a function in a person and the function of it is so strong, then that's most likely a hero function, right? And the thing about the hero functions is it is unconscious to the person. And to a lot of people say, oh, the top four functions are conscious, the other ones is unconscious. I think the hero function and the entirety of it is unconscious, and the way that it directs your life is unconscious to the person, right? They only notice it when they're in the absence of it not, right?
Exactly.
My
it's
girlfriend,
like a fish being out of water. It's
my girlfriend's 9 TP, right? And I said, like, when did you know that you were TI hero? She said, I really never knew. I just knew when I was around stupid stuff. So and I've done several times where I've asked coworkers, friends, whatever, to identify me knowing what the hero function is. I tried to get them to identify it, and they could not. I had to spoon feed it to them to where they got it. But that is the system that I'm trying to create. Also, just understanding how the functions flow. The function typing, it's more diverse, but I think it's worth the money in investing in because it will make sure that you don't miss things. Like I would say we're like very advanced over in my group on this, to like looking at how does NI flow to TE, and how does TE flow to NI, how does NE flow to TI, and how does TI flow to NE. They are different ways that they go about solving things, and you will see the person use it in real time and see it. And once you see that, you know what you got immediately. Boom, you know immediately. Is TI hero? Okay. Is he direct informative? Okay, he's informative. I got an INTP here. Done. You ain't even got to go through all these other metrics.
So I think with this vector, if you're just typing functions, I think the skill floor is high. Like it's so easy to use this terribly, and it takes a lot of practice to use this effectively because I talked about ESTJs talking about what they want, but it's a TE achievement, it's SI effort towards that. It's not NI. It looks like NI, but the skill ceiling for this is really high. I think if you get good at this, it can be extremely powerful. What you said at the beginning of this vector, using it to check your homework, I think that's its best role. And until you get really, really good at it, I would not use this vector on its own. I think it's like this vector helps you provide feedback, helps you refine your work for the most part. I don't think it's as good as a standalone overall. Would you agree with that or not?
Well, I think if I'm
talking about your hero aspect of it, because that's
no. I'm just saying. All right, if I'm thinking about it, I got to think about it from a newbie perspective. This one's gonna trip you up, right? You're gonna have to invest a lot here to get to where you need to be. But if you put in the time and the effort, I think it will trump a lot of the other metrics.
Yeah. Okay.
But you're gonna have to, not new friendly. It's not new friendly is what I'm gonna say.
Okay. I'm feeling like this has to be C tier for now.
Yeah.
I'm separating it from your hero things. I think that's different, and that's a prototype. Yeah, I think it's okay, and I think it can be good, but the bang for your buck is not necessarily proportional. Hopefully that makes sense. So,
well, and I'll say another thing is like if you type somebody a certain type, right? Let's say you type him INFP, right? You should be able to see his functions play out like that. INFP functions. You shouldn't type somebody something and then the functions not match. If the functions not matching, you done messed up. You need to go back to the drawing board. Then
use it as a filter, right?
I use it as a check system. Check system, but again, like my skill level is way more advanced than most people. So,
yeah, I think this one is kind of like initiating and responding has a lot of ways it can go wrong, but I think it's more effective in the skilled hands user than initiating and responding. So I think it has to be C tier. Okay, so language typing. There's two different things here. There's one in which no, it's really just the same thing. How people talk. Can you decipher their language? TI users will use like more if-then statements, sort of. FE users. What's that?
Isn't that the same as functions?
Yes, but it's specifically through language and not behavior. So
I thought you were saying. Oh God, I thought we were saying language. I thought it was language that we were saying. I asked you if they were like on actions for the like. Oh my God, he just did this, or he must be an NI user. That I would say is terrible. But if you're talking about language,
so this is looping it together a little bit because function typing is language a little bit. This is a TE trickster thing. I know there's a distinction somewhere here. I might not have given it the best label, but language typing is just language. Like let's attribute informative here. Let's attribute TI here. It's kind of a using all the vectors and the functions just through speech alone. So again, I think like function typing, it's a high skill floor. I would not recommend someone who's starting with this, who's new to this stuff, to start language typing. Because as soon as you hear a TE hero make a logic statement, you're like, oh, they must be an INTP. It's like, no, they can use some logic too. So I think it's really powerful though at a higher level. I especially if you're I've typed via like reading a biography and or typing someone, you can dissect a statement into phrases and attach that to functions, but it's so easy to go haywire with this.
Mhm.
Personally, I think it's better than function typing, but not by a lot. I would
Mhm.
say it's low B, high C. So I'll try and give an example here of like, if you're typing someone in archaic who's like from a couple thousand years ago, and you have some quotes from them, you can discern some things,
Mhm.
and TE users talk in a certain way. I'd have to give some real examples to really drive this point home. I don't know if you type using this or not, but I think you do because
I
you
mean,
type how someone writes.
if if you're just like I think if you are left with just language or something, then you have to do it. I think maybe if you want to like use some prehistoric person or something, and you go and look at his quotes and you kind of distinguish from there. But like I said, the when I'm doing prehistoric people, I think the best method there is just to leave it like this person was most likely an
Right,
NTP, or
right.
most likely this
Agreed.
person was an STJ, or most likely this guy was an NTJ. I
That's right.
think that's going to be the most accurate. I think you can, if you put in the work, you can single it down, but there's always going to be a chance of you being wrong because when you're dealing with uh, people, a lot of times those biographies are written by somebody else, right? And they capture the highlights of your life, not
That's
the
right.
that. So you got some things that just even flat out made up, you know. So you got to be
Yeah,
careful with it.
you have to be careful. Overall, I agree about the archaic things. You have to have a level of, I think, humility with it, unless you can really justify it. Like there's some where I feel really strongly about, and most of them though, I'm like, we don't really know for sure. As an example, I was reading Aristotle recently, and he has this quote that is like the most TE thing ever. That guy is so TE and systematic. Um,
I think
and
people type him ENTJ, but I'm not too sure because I haven't read his work. But I don't think he's
yeah,
ENTJ. What do you think
he
of him?
might be a something else, but I'm pretty sure he's high TE and systematic, which I think they all
Yeah,
are. So
I think he's probably ENTJ, but I mean, yeah.
that'd be interesting. I didn't consider
I haven't
that.
looked at him, but it's rare that I see like a very philosophical like ENTJ. It's very rare.
Yeah, it is rare, and that was kind of the hang up for me. I never met one. I don't think. However, if you read him, like they say they took notes from his lectures to write the books, but it's just so much TE using your hero typing method. I think you'll see a
Mhm.
lot of TE there. But
Mhm.
anyway, so this one is, you know what? I'm a little biased to this because I use it. At least I feel
Mhm.
like I use it. I kind of want to go low B tier with it in terms of the potential. The problem I'm having with it though is that it's so easy to mess it up.
Yeah.
But I think it's that powerful. I think it's more powerful than the other two when you get good at it, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree or not, but like
Yeah.
when you look at a paragraph of someone's text message, like you get intimations of, okay, this is informative, this is direct, things like that at the
I think
very
you got to be
least.
really careful with that. And the reason why I say that is because I have a whole Discord channel. And the thing is, you try to decipher things based off text, and it's usually wrong. I'll be flat out. Like there was a time when we were early Discord people, early Discord server, and people were trying to use that, and they were striking out so much. I think when you are looking at like text and stuff, you want to just try to look for the overarching thing that comes from that text, because the overarching thing will usually be the hero, right? So we're
So
going back
yeah,
into my method there, but
that's your TE approach, and I don't do it like that because I can't. The way I do it is I will kind of do that a little bit, but then I'll go down to individual statements. I think the difference here is you have to keep an open mind. You have to maintain perspective. You can justify any type if you only focus on a certain phrase. You really
mhm,
have to filter it out over and over and over again. If those conditions are met, I think it can be pretty good. But
yeah,
you can't just use it like, oh, well, that statement is this, therefore that. You're going to be wrong
mhm.
most of the time.
Yeah.
if you're, that's low hanging fruit, I think. So,
Yeah.
all right, last one here,
You got the
visual
phone.
typing.
I I like
Controversial.
I'll let it go. I'll go first on this one. Visual typing, man. This is something you need to create a database for. This is not something like the average person is gonna be able to be good at. For myself, I see myself using it at a B tier to be able to uh, type people, but I have a large database of people that I have typed before. So I have a base that I could compare them to. And I can also see similar patterns from people that I've typed as well. You know, whether it be hand motions, the way they move, the way they, all this. There seem to be similar patterns, but you have to build that. That's not an overnight thing. It's going to be years in the making on that visual typing.
At least. Man. So I got to be honest here. The way I type is mostly visual typing, and I use the vectors to filter through that. It's because I think it's because of T trickster. I can't lead with the vectors always in a real time interaction. I'm so perception based. So I think Nardi talked about this, one of his books, about part of the brain being about the speed of visual recognition, something like that. So in the past, we had talked about SE users dominating visual typing. I think that's more likely true than not. But I imagine that part of the brain that is like facial recognition, things like that, that I'm going to guess is attached to someone's capability with visual typing.
Yeah, well, I will say this. I actually disagree with people saying that SC is very good at visual typing. I actually noticed that they're really not that great. I noticed that the people who are very good at pattern recognition will be the ones that are really good at visual typing, because
That's true. It is a pattern.
that they've seen. It's not so much about like the physical looks; it's a pattern. Right? You have to match that pattern up with somebody else. It's not like, oh, well, Murcer has this, that. So he's that type. It's like, oh, Murcer has this pattern, or Murcer speaks. I even use one thing that we love on my channel. It's called voice typing. If your voice is the same as somebody else's I heard, I know you're that type. And it's better than visual typing. It has been more accurate for me than if your voice is the same as somebody else, you're pretty much cooked in my book. And I'm literally listening for it. Like Mark Zuckerberg and Dario Nardi have the same voice. As soon as I hear that voice, I'm like, boom.
That's true, actually. Yeah, that's a good point. So in my mind, I lump those together, and it's kind of beyond visual. It's like, I don't want to say sensory typing, but it's something
pattern
like that.
Typing. I would say pattern typing.
So this is interesting because I agree about the pattern thing, and I might be viewing it as thinking it's my SE when thinking it's a little more NE too. But the problem is you have to discern what is there accurately, and I think SE users are faster at that. Of like, okay, this is what the voice sounds like, this is what they look like, and then NE's in the background there. So it's almost like you need good recognition of what's there, and then also to be able to attach it to a pattern. So it's almost, to me, it's a little bit of both and. That being said, though, I feel like I've met ESTPs who just have a very strong impression of someone. You can tell a lot about them with the SE hero. I don't know if you would say that's the same thing or not, but I don't know. I think the STPs are pretty good at this.
I think the STPs are. I mean, I really think, if I wanted to be honest, I really think the ENTPs are really good at this.
The visual typing? Interesting.
Yeah, because of the NESI, right? They see a pattern, right, and then they go in the bank and they know a connection that they've seen before.
Logic,
but to me, I just think the high SE is not really good at it. And I have a group, and sometimes I have like some people that will post a visual and say this person looks like it, and I'm like, are you drunk?
Sure.
Are you drunk? And I'm like, no. Like, I have to tell them, like, no. Like, and I think they're able to look at somebody and say, the visual look behind it, but looking deeper into that is an abstract function.
There's no right. Okay.
So
That's
that's my thinking
I
on
do
that.
agree with that. They're more likely to, like, the SE Hero is more likely to just sort of see like one similarity and then jump
It's
to
just
it.
surface level.
And
It's just
there's no
SE is
actual
surface
pattern.
level. SE is surface
True.
level. Like,
True.
oh, this guy got, these features, but it's surface level. And I looked deeply into that. So I've noticed visual typing to be better with the abstract types. But like I said, you need to build a database,
Right.
which most
Yeah,
people
this is a long haul one. And I've had people that I've been stuck on for years. Like, there was one person in my life. She was a teacher, a tutor for me. I was stuck on her for literally like 8 years. I cannot figure out what type she was. But then as soon as I finally figured it out, there were like 4 or 5 other people that were immediately unlocked because I could then see the representation there. So this is if you're patient and can put in the work here, and I think you have to have some kind of disposition to this, it is really powerful. But there are so many ways it can go wrong too. So
yeah.
I kind of want to go A tier, honestly, but I don't know. This is.
I think it depends on the hands that it's in.
Yeah.
And I also would say, like, you have to be careful with visual typing because of people can dress and dress like they're subconscious. And you'll see like a lot of INTJs who dress like an ESFP, and you'll boom, you'll miss
A
it
little
every
more
time.
Yeah.
Or like
That's right.
you'll see an ENTP who dresses like an ISFJ. Like, so you got to, if you have the understanding of all this, it's a very powerful tool. Like for me, when I'm walking around, I can literally visual type most people that I see, like within like boom, boom, boom. But it's because I've had a large set of database. Mine
Right.
came from actually typing people, right? Actually typing people. I don't just like try to use visual typing first. My procedure is always to type a person, right? And then once I have them archived, then maybe I can pull for them in the future.
Right. Yeah, like you said, in the right hands, it works really well. In the wrong hands, it's useless. Even worse than that. So, but because I think of how powerful it is in the right hands, it's like
The speed. It's very quick.
It's powerful. So I'm kind of going low A for this because of that. I have a hard time with that because there are a lot of people who probably shouldn't use it, but it's strong, I think. So
yeah. I think
just be honest.
The hang up that I will get is like the people who first get into type, they try to run to things that's easy. And this will be one of the things that they see as easy. And then they'll try to do this, and then they will just spread BS. So that's the hang up with this one. But in an experienced typist, I think it's powerful. But I wouldn't say every typist can do it. You have to have the database, and you have to be actually accurately typing people. If you're not actually accurately typing people, then your database is going to be terrible, and the visual type is going to be terrible.
So just as an example here, I think CSJ typed Jocko Willink as an ESTP, and I thought he was something else for a while, and I was like, I got convinced for a little while as an ESTP.
The big guy, the big.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think he's an ESTP, but anyway, as the example, if you think he's that type, then other people that remind you of him, you're like automatically ESTP. But you have the source wrong potentially, right? This is what you're talking about.
That's why I said that it's never my go-to. My first thing is always to type someone.
I think you have to hold it gently. You can't, just because you see a connection does not mean it's one for one, does not mean you have the base type correct. So it's like a domino effect, okay? Like if you have the source, like the visual person that you're basing these 4 or 5 typing off, if you have that wrong, you're really wrong. I had this experience personally with a girl I grew up with. I thought she was an ESTJ. And then there's people like some actresses like Elizabeth Olsen, Victoria Pedretti, if you people know them. And Tulsi Gabbard. All 3 of them reminded me of this person. And I was like, oh, that's that person. And then I figured out finally that I had typed that person I grew up with wrong. And then I was like, oh crap, I got all these other 3 wrong because of that. So, so just be careful with that.
That's what I
So
said. It's so easy, and it requires judgment, and like it requires no work. So people are more inclined to do it. And then
that's
the
right.
thing is that people want to spread that word like it's gospel. So
That's right.
then you got it creates a lot of headaches.
That's, like, and here's the thing. Like, the getting good at these things is not complicated. It's the thing. It's the thing with everything else. You got to be humble. You have to try. You have to put in effort. To not assume that you know the right answer. Those are the hard things to do, I think, because we all want to be really good right away. And I've had to go through a lot of humbling experiences where I realized I really had
Man,
no idea what I was talking about for a while.
John, I don't think I went through the most humbling experiences because I have typed like I do free typings on my channel,
Right.
and I've typed so many people. And when I first started, I wasn't as if you guys see how I can like break down all these metrics, like like separating them pretty easily. At first, it was a lot of this stuff has overlap. So like there's times where I've had to pull people in from 2 years ago and tell them, hey, I got to have you come back on the channel
Right.
because I got your type wrong. And I really care about getting it right. That's what I want to do. I want to make sure that I get people's type right. Because these people are going out in the world and a lot of people are, wearing these masks, and I want to make sure I got it right, because the effects that you can have on somebody else.
And some of these people base a lot of decisions off of their type. So if you get it wrong, that's consequential. As you know that as good as well as anyone else. So absolutely. Okay, so
it's humbling to bring them back in, and then you got to say, do it again, and but the people have been so amazing to me with it,
yeah.
But I own it, man. If I get it wrong, I own it. I'll come out and say I got it wrong, and this is why I got it wrong.
I think most people appreciate it. I mean, it's just honesty and like, here's where I went wrong, and here's what I think you are. I think most people get that. So,
yeah.
All right. So let's review real quick. We're kind of running out of time here. So S tier, the only S tier one we got, outcome and progression. I think that feels right. If you're gonna master all of these vectors, I think that's the one that is really, really powerful and consistent. A tier, abstract, concrete, direct, informative, visual typing. Barring some exceptions, I think I feel good about that in that order. You feel the same?
Yeah, I think abstract, concrete is pretty good. Direct versus informative is pretty good. Visual typing is pretty good. I think when you're talking about accuracy and reliability, like you can't miss it if the person's abstract, right? Direct versus informative, you can kind of get shaky with sometimes. So I would give the edge to abstract versus concrete.
Yeah. And visual typing is a kind of a long haul strategy.
Long haul. Yeah. I mean, you can speed up that process by like, maybe you watch John's videos, maybe you watch my videos, and you kind of see our celebrity list, and you see like, what are the ones that are 100% agreeing on. Take your visual typing from there. You can speed up the process.
Exactly. Okay. B tier, affiliative, pragmatic, and then typing, how people speak, how they write. That one, I'm having a hard time because there's a lot of pitfalls to these, but I got to look at in the hands of someone who dedicates time to it. I think those are both really powerful. So I feel good about B tier with those two.
Yeah. I think, affiliative versus pragmatic, it's more noob friendly.
Yes.
But you got to be very careful with it as well, right? Sometimes you can't attribute every little action someone, this person went to jail, he got to be pragmatic. Like stuff like that. That's going to leave you to mistyping somebody.
That's right. And again, you have like the subtypes here. In the video I'm about to release, I make the argument that people higher in disagreeableness or like lower in agreeableness are more likely to look like pragmatic type. It's kind of similar to like a dominant subtype. Probably going to look a little more pragmatic because they're more in charge, and that people interpret that more as pragmatic. So yeah, but I think it's pretty good, and it's a little easier to get better with, I think, and I think it's a good starting point. One of those ones. So okay, language typing. Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about that one. There's a lot of pitfalls, but to me personally, I think it can be really powerful with some skill. So, okay, interest in systematic and function typing. I feel good about that. I feel like those are both a little lower level. They're still okay, but you're gonna get less out of it, I think.
I think with the you got to understand your functions though, guys. Like I think it's very important to understand your functions. You can't, you got to do it all. You got to understand your functions. But I do think it's more slipperier, right? If you jump on, you got to be careful that you don't just jump on one metric. You know, you jump on one metric, you get in trouble. You get it wrong, you're in trouble.
I think that's why we put it C tier, because also because the function typing is a kind of a supplemental tool. I don't think it can ever really be your main tool, but it can be good as a verification, as a checklist thing that you talked about. Like if you type someone an INFP, like you said, you have to have evidence for those functions being there. Otherwise, they're probably not an INFP. So I think it's powerful as a Robin, you know, to the Batman, so to speak. Okay, lastly, initiating and responding. We agree on that.
It's dog.
In a few contexts, it's good. Most contexts, not so good. So
yeah, we think that one's dog poop. That one is dog poop. Like that metric there is terrible. You gotta be very careful with that one.
The thing about it too is that it's kind of seductive, because it's like, oh, you know, I can, if they initiate, oh, they're an extrovert, and I've eliminated half the types. If you get good at it, it's better, but man, it is the most misleading one, I think. So all right, man.
You gotta be careful with initiating versus responding. You just got to, because I think there is different social aspects of masks that people wear, and I want to say this. I think that is the metric that's easily learned by a person. I think it's the one that you will see the most from learned behavior, while the other metrics, initiating versus responding, I think it's
right. Okay.
I think it's the easiest to be a learned behavior metric.
Right. Agreed.
So I think the contextual self or the developed self can learn this metric. And it also depends on the circumstances that you're in. Like if John is NI-DOM, if he really wants something, he may initiate on you for it, you know?
That's right. You have to. So I agree. It's the most adaptable, and it can look like part of you, even if it's not your type preference. Real quick to wrap up here, can you pick two of these vectors that you think someone who's new or newish should invest in and think, okay, these are powerful and they're kind of easier to get connected with?
I think the ones that you want to look at here would be direct versus informing, and I think you want to look at abstract versus concrete. I think those are ones going to be the ones that are going to give you the easiest to notice, and I think they're going to speak to you. I
think those two are good. I'm leaning a little towards abstract and concrete, and then affiliative and pragmatic. For me, I think those
new friendly.
Those are a good starting point. Yeah, though if you want to invest in the A tier and get good, then do that. I think the hardest ones are language, visual, and outcome and progression. To me, those are probably the hardest ones.
But outcome and progression, I think, is ingrained in the person's core. Like it's just there.
That's right. Would you say it's the least one of the less affected by nurture?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And that's kind of why is the S tier here, is that we think it's, like you said, ingrained. So once you get good at it, you're gonna be pretty accurate with it. That's the idea here. So all right, Murcer, man, anything else you want to share before we
man, it was an absolute pleasure. This was my first tier list. Great to be able to,
this was fun, man.
Debate it, and
I enjoy this.
It's awesome.
Cool. All right, thank you guys. Share your comments down below. If you guys want more stuff like this, I'm sure if I can talk Murcer into doing another tier list of some kind. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and we'll see you around. Take care.
Peace out, guys.
Bye.